There are many phrasal verbs that can be used in academic writing. In this video, we will talk about 26 different phrasal verbs that you might consider using in your essay writing. I will give a meaning for each phrasal verb and then show you 3 sentence examples. I hope you find some of these helpful and that you decide to use them when writing essays. Welcome to Writing better sentences, paragraphs, and essays. Account for. To give a reason or explanation for something, or to be the cause of something. Computers account for 5% of the country's commercial electricity consumption. The stress she has been under lately may account for her attitude. Exports account for 70% of the business. Adhere to act in the way that is required, or to hold closely to. They expected them to adhere to the rules. They failed to adhere to the original agreement. The glue helped the paper to adhere to the container. Allude to refer to indirectly. He was interested in learning more about the technology they alluded to in their research. He alluded to the problem in his complaint. They alluded to the developments in this case. Break down or break down into. Become ineffective or to divide into parts or categories. They were hoping that the talks would not break down. There was a need to break down the project into smaller parts. You can see here that sometimes another word will come between the phrasal verb. The report was broken down into 3 sections. Build on. To use as a basis or a foundation. They will continue to build on their great reputation. The new plan will build on the previous successful programs. They were building all their hopes on being successful with the new product. Carry out. Perform a task or to complete or accomplish something. They were not able to carry out the experiment in time. They will need to carry out a proper inspection before proceeding. The company will need to carry out far-reaching reforms. Come about. Happen or to take place. How this situation came about is still a mystery. A solution will only come about after much discussion. These problems all came about because of a lack of planning. Come up with. To produce something or to suggest or think of an idea for a plan. They will need to come up with a solution quickly. She wanted to come up with a good idea for the weekend. See if you can come up with some practical ways to reduce the number of errors. Consist of. To be made up of or formed from something. The award will consist of a large sum of money. With this type of mortgage, the payments consist of both capital and interest. The company's assets consisted of investments, buildings, and machinery. Cut down on or cut back on. Both of these mean to reduce the size, amount, or quantity of something. They needed to cut down on the amount of waste being made. He needed to cut back on his spending habits. All countries are being asked to cut down on use of non-renewable resources. Embark on. To start or begin something new or important. The company leadership decided to embark on an aggressive marketing campaign. More thought and preparation is needed before embarking on such an important decision. With further expansions in the future, the manufacturer was making plans to embark on the next phase. Expand on. To provide more details or information about something. The manager expanded on his remarks from last month's meeting. They asked her to expand on her thoughts about the new project. The purpose of this research is to expand on the need to reduce carbon emissions. Follow through. To continue an action to its conclusion. The leadership has been unwilling to follow through on their decision. They make impressive suggestions, but seldom follow through on them. The employees hoped that the management would follow through on their decision to raise salaries. Follow up. To pursue or investigate something further. They felt that they needed to follow up on the research they had started. Extended follow-up is needed to assess the true cause of the accident. However, seldom do the companies follow up with what they had promised. Frown upon. To disapprove of or find something unacceptable. That type of behavior is frowned upon. Showing affection in public is frowned upon in some cultures. The company frowns upon the wasteful use of company resources. Look into. To investigate something, examine something. The manager promised to look into the matter. They decided to change the policy after they had looked into the issue. An independent committee will look into the allegations. Point out. To say something to make someone aware of a fact or circumstance. Critics to the project point out that there are some major problems with the procedure. She was too polite to point out the mistake in front of everyone. I should point out that there are some challenges with this method. Put forward. To submit a plan, proposal, or theory for consideration. They put forward some excellent reasons for moving ahead with the project. The manager's name was put forward as a possible replacement for the head of the department. Several reasons were put forward as recommendations for some much-needed changes. Refer to. Mention or allude to, or refer to indirectly. The figures in parentheses refer to last year's profits. They agreed never to refer to the matter again. For further information, please refer to the attached manual. Resort to. To turn to a course of action so as to resolve a difficult situation. If negotiations do not resolve the problem, we will need to resort to further actions. They may have to resort to using some of the older equipment. Some officials fear that extremists may resort to violence. Rule out. Exclude someone or something as a possibility. They refused to rule out the possibility of a price increase. They would not rule out the possibility of re-entering the foreign market. This does not rule out the manager from being responsible. Set up. To place or erect something in position or establish a business or organization. They wanted to set up shop in the new mall. The police set up a barricade in preparation for a possible attack. An interim government was set up until there could be an election. Subject to. Likely to be affected by a particular condition, or dependent or conditional upon. They felt that they were subject to unfair tax laws. The prices are subject to change. The terms of the agreement are subject to review. Take into account. To consider or remember something when judging a situation. He had to take into account that they may not have sufficient funds. There are 3 factors to take into account: cost, time, and staff. This also does not take into account the fact that a large portion of the population appears to be against the new policy. Take on. To decide to do something, or to agree to be responsible for something or someone. He realized that he had taken on more than he could handle. The department did not feel like it was ready to take on such a large challenge. It is up to them to take on the leadership at this time. Turn out. Prove to be the case, or to happen in a particular way. It often turns out that he is wrong. They felt certain that everything would turn out fine. It turned out to be a worthwhile investment. I hope you find some of these helpful and that you do decide to use them when writing your essays. If you need help writing essays, you may want to check out these printable workbooks I have available for practicing your writing skills. The link is in the description below. Happy writing!